morning, children. Today we will discuss Geography Unit 3 Hydrologic Cycle. Learning objectives. To understand the status of water on the earth, to learn the basic concepts of hydrologic cycle, to study the different components of hydrologic cycle. First, let us see introduction. Water is one of the most important elements on the earth. All plants and animals need water for survival. Apart from drinking water is required for domestic, agriculture, industrial purposes. Water is very essential for carrying out almost all economic activities. So water is an indispensable element without which life form on the earth is not possible. Next, let us see water on the earth. About 71% of the earth's surface is covered by water. The quantity of water present on the earth is about 326 million cubic miles. The salt water about 97.2% and the fresh water is only about 2.8%. Out of this 2.8%, only 2.2% is available as surface water and the remaining 0.6% as groundwater. From this 2.2 of surface water, 2.15% is available in the form of glaciers and ice caps, 0.01% in lakes and streams, and the remaining 0.04% is in other forms. Only about 0.25% of the total groundwater of 0.6% can be economically extracted with the present drilling technology. Next, let us see hydrologic cycle. What do you mean by hydrologic cycle? Hydrology is the science which deals with the various aspects of water. Availability of water on the earth is not uniform. Some places are very rich and some places are poor in water resources. Hydrological cycle is a global sun-driven process where water is transported from oceans to atmosphere, from atmospheres to land, and from land back to oceans. This is called hydrologic cycle. Okay? What do you mean by hydrologic cycle? Hydrologic cycle is a global sun-driven process where water is transported from oceans to atmosphere, from atmosphere to land, and from land back to oceans. The water cycle can be considered as a closed system for the earth, as the quantity of water involved in the cycle is invariable, though its distribution varies over space and time. Hydrologic cycle is a circulation of water. It is a continuous process and take place naturally. The three important phases of the hydrologic cycles are evapotranspiration, precipitation, and runoff. Components of hydrologic cycle. There are 6 main components of hydrologic cycle. They are evapotranspiration, condensation, precipitation, infiltration, percolation, and runoff. These are the 6 main components of hydrologic cycle. Let us see one by one. First one, evapotranspiration. It is defined as the total loss of water from the earth through evaporation from the surface of water bodies and the transpiration from vegetation. In cropped area, it is difficult to determine the evaporation and transpiration separately. Therefore, it is collectively called evapotranspiration. Next, let us see evaporation. Evaporation refers to the process in which the liquid form of water changes into gaseous form. That is called evaporation. What do you mean by evaporation? Evaporation is the process in which the liquid form of water changes into gaseous form. Water boils at 100 degrees Celsius temperature, but it actually begins to evaporate at 0 degree Celsius. And the process takes place very slowly. Temperature is the prime element which affects the rate of evaporation. There is a positive relationship between these two variables. What are the two variables? Evaporation and the temperature. The atmosphere gets nearly 90% of moisture from the oceans, seas, lakes and rivers through evaporation, and only 10% of the moisture from plants through transpiration. Next, let us see transpiration. Transpiration refers to the process by which the water content in the plants are released into the atmosphere in the form of water vapor. Much of the water taken up by plants is released through transpiration. The rate of transpiration is also affected by the temperature, wind and humidity. The rate of transpiration is also affected by nature of vegetation and the method of cultivation of crops. Next, let us see condensation. It refers to the process in which the gaseous form of water changes into liquid form. Condensation generally occurs in the atmosphere when warm air rises, cools and loses its capacity to cold water vapor. As a result, excess water vapor condenses to form cloud droplets. Condensation is responsible for the formation of clouds. Next, let us see forms of condensation. Dew, frost, fog, mist and clouds are the different forms of condensation. First, let us see dew. Dew, it is a water droplet formed by the condensation of water vapor on a relatively cold surface of an object. It forms when the temperature of an object drops below the dew point temperature. Dew point temperature. What do you mean by dew point temperature? The dew point is the temperature the air needs to be cooled to. At this point, the air cannot hold more water in gas. That is called dew point temperature. Dew means small drops of water that form an cool surface. That is called dew. Next, frost. The ice crystals formed by deposition of water vapor on a relatively cold surface of an object is known as frost. Next, let us see fog. Fog is the suspended tiny water droplets or ice crystals in an air layer next to the earth's surface. Next, let us see mist. Mist is the tiny droplets of water hanging in the air. That is called mist. Next, let us see clouds. Clouds consist of tiny water droplets or ice particles which are so small and light in weight. Clouds are formed by microscopic drops of water or by small ice crystals. The size of the droplets generally range from a couple of microns to 100 microns. When the size of the water droplets exceed 100 microns, it becomes raindrops. Next, let us see precipitation. Precipitation refers to all forms of water that fall from clouds and reaches the earth's surface. That is called precipitation. For the occurrence of precipitation, clouds droplets or ice crystals must grow heavy enough to fall through the air. Next, let us see Forms of precipitation. The form of precipitation in a region depends on the kind of weather or the climate of the region. The precipitation in the warmer parts of the world is always in the form of rain or drizzle. In colder region, precipitation may fall as snow or ice. Common types of precipitation are rain, sleet, freezing, rain, hail, and snow. First, let us see rain. The most common kind of precipitation is rain. The precipitation in the form of water droplets is called rain. The precipitation in which the size of raindrops are less than 0.5 mm in diameter is known as drizzle, and the raindrops with greater than 0.5 in diameter is known as rain. Generally, drizzle takes place from stratus clouds. Next, let us see sleet. The precipitation which take place in the form of mixture of water droplets and tiny particles of ice is known as sleet. Sometimes raindrops fall through the layer of air below 0 degrees Celsius, the freezing point of water. Next, let us see freezing rain. Sometimes raindrops falling through cold air near the ground do not freeze in the air. Instead, the raindrops freeze when they touch a cold surface. This is called freezing rain, and the drops of water are usually greater than 0.5 mm in diameter. That is called freezing rain. Next, hail. The precipitation which consists of round pellets of ice which are larger than 5 mm in diameter is called hail or hailstones. A hailstone starts an ice pellet inside a cold region of a cloud. Next, let us see snow. Often, water vapor in a cloud is converted directly into snow pieces due to lowering of temperature. It appears like a powdery mass of ice. The precipitation in the form of powdery mass of ice is known as snowfall. It is common in the polar and high mountainous regions. Okay, next let us see infiltration. Water entering the soil at the surface of the ground is termed as infiltration. Infiltration allows the soil temporarily to store water, making it available for plants or the organism in the soil. Infiltration is an important process where rainwater soaks into the ground through the soil and underlying rocks layers. Some of this water ultimately returns to the surface through springs or low spouts down hills. Some of the water remains underground and it is called groundwater. The rate of infiltration is influenced by the physical characteristics of the soil, vegetative cover, moisture content of the soil temperature and rainfall intensity. The terms infiltration and percolation are often used interchangeably. Percolation means the movement of water through the process in soil or rock. Percolation is the downward movement of infiltrated water through soil and rock layers. Next, let us see runoff. Runoff is the water that is pulled by gravity across land surface. It comes from unabsorbed water from rain, snow melt, irrigation or other sources. Runoff is also a major contributor to the erosion which carves out canyons, gorge and related landforms. The rate of runoff that can happen depends on the amount of rainfall, vegetation and slope. Only about 35% of precipitation ends up in the sea or ocean, and the other 60% is absorbed into the soil. Next, let us see types of runoff. Based on the time interval between the instance of rainfall and generation of runoff, the runoff may be classified into following three types, that is surface runoff, subsurface runoff, base flow. What do you mean by surface runoff? It is the portion of rainfall which enters the stream immediately after the rainfall. It is called surface runoff. It occurs when the rainfall is longer, heavier, and exceeds the rate of infiltration. Subsurface runoff, the water that has entered the subsoil and moves laterally without joining the water table to the streams, rivers, or oceans is known as subsurface runoff. Base flow, it is a flow of underground water. It usually appears at a downstream location where the channel elevation is lower than the groundwater table. Groundwater provides the stream flow during dry periods of small or no precipitation. Okay, children, go through the textbook, learn well. Thank you.